Hello, Waffle Crew. I hope you're all doing fantastic. I'm Mark, and today we're diving into some fresh Reddit tales. If you enjoy these Reddit stories, please consider giving a thumbs up, subscribing, and maybe even tapping that notification bell. Let's jump into our first story. Sending lots of love, folks. Our first tale comes from user ReadFinance7292 on the Am I the Jerk subreddit. It reads, Am I still the jerk for growing after my divorce and becoming the husband and father my ex always wanted? I know I was the jerk back then. My ex and I, both in our 40s, tied the knot in college when we were in our early 20s. We went from sharing dorm rooms to being married and moving to a new state for my career. We relished the early days of marriage, enjoying our 20s in a vibrant new city. Soon after, she got pregnant, and our first child arrived just after our first anniversary. She became a stay-at-home mom, while I took on extra hours to provide for us. She matured quickly to care for our baby, but I was still stuck in my carefree college mindset, far from being a supportive husband or father. We argued constantly about my lack of help and emotional support. I'd insist I was doing enough, pointing out my 80-hour work weeks, the occasional diaper change, or cooking my own meal to lighten her load. She'd share her struggles and suggest ways I could help. But I ignored her, choosing to argue instead. I leaned on what's now called weaponized incompetence, thinking I was working hard while she was just being unreasonable. In truth, I was oblivious to the overwhelming responsibilities she faced. She was struggling and begging for support, but I'd dismiss her, arguing she wasn't really drowning. Things improved slightly every few months, either because I pitched in a bit more or because she suppressed her frustrations to avoid conflict. We had a second child during this period, which only amplified the stress and worsened our fights. Eventually, she reached her breaking point and moved hours away to live with her family. I tried to win her back with grand gestures, love bombing, though I didn't know the term then, assuming she'd come around. I was stunned when I received divorce papers. I hadn't cheated, abused her, or had any addictions. We loved each other, so how could she leave? But she did. During legal meetings, I was shocked by her deep resentment toward me. Where had that come from? We settled on every other weekend visits for me. The first time I cared for our two toddlers alone for a full weekend was a wake-up call. I'd done it a few times while married, but she'd always prepped everything. Meals, clothes, a clean house. I was still figuring out how to do laundry consistently or clean up after myself. I'd gone from my parents' home to dorms with tidying roommates to living with my ex, who always covered for me. I knew the basics of housekeeping, but had never been solely responsible. Now, I was in charge of a home and two young kids for 48 hours. I was overwhelmed and hit with a wave of empathy for what my ex had endured. I apologized to her, but it only fueled her anger. So, I decided to grow up. I committed to making every weekend with my kids count. I learned to cook and found I enjoyed it. I mastered braiding hair, stocked up on toddler supplies for walks, and embraced fatherhood fully. On my own time, I took up hobbies, hit the gym, and read the self-help and relationship books my ex had begged me to read. I worked hard to become a better dad and person. A couple of years post-divorce, I started dating again. Being a single dad in my late 20s scared off some women, but I connected well with single moms. I met my current wife, a single mom whose ex had abandoned her and their kids. To her, I was a dream partner. A devoted dad who worked hard, handled chores, and cherished her. I took the lessons from my first marriage, addressed my ex's criticisms, and applied them to become a better partner. I became the husband my ex had wanted. Though I still make mistakes and rely on my wife's support to keep improving. I'd see my ex every other weekend, and while our relationship got slightly better, her resentment lingered. She went back to school, got a job, and raised our kids mostly alone. I pushed for more visitation as the kids grew, but she resisted, and their distance made daily visits impossible, so I only got extended summer time. I know little about her personal life. She's unmarried, but I don't ask our kids about her. She might be thriving, but our brief interactions suggest otherwise. Now our youngest is a senior, graduating soon, and I've been talking to my ex more to plan the event. It's mostly civil, but her anger occasionally slips through in passive-aggressive remarks. I thank her for being an amazing mom, and apologize again for failing her years ago. Yet I still feel like the jerk, sometimes because of her understandable coldness, sometimes from my own guilt over how I treated her. She's about to face an empty nest after dedicating her life to our kids when I let her down, while I'm living the family life we once planned, but with someone else. Am I still the jerk for learning from my divorce and becoming the husband I should have been for her? A commenter notes that, to your ex, you'll always be the jerk. The resentment, why couldn't you change for her, will linger. She struggled as a single mom while you built a new family and played the fun weekend dad. User 3 Wheels of Chaos agrees, saying you're not the jerk for growing and apologizing, but your ex likely sees it differently. You view it as a wake-up call that made you mature and parent better, which is commendable. But she might feel you ignored her struggles, made her life harder, and now live the perfect life with someone else, a life she wanted but didn't get. That resentment, wondering why she wasn't enough for you to change, could last forever. Another user, her psychopath, adds that you'll always be the villain in her story for hurting her when she was vulnerable. Becoming a great husband now only deepens her pain, showing you could have been that man but didn't care enough to be for her. The best you can do is be honest with your grown kids about your failures to help them avoid your mistakes. Waste empathizes with her, noting how devastating it feels when someone treats you poorly but improves for someone else. Questions like, "Why wasn't I enough?" or "What's wrong with me?" likely haunt her. She's carried the heavier load with little time to date, especially amid societal judgment towards single moms. Charming Changeling asks why you didn't move closer to your kids to gain more custody, pointing out you had freedom to date while she didn't. You chose a new wife and family over being near your kids, which might fuel her resentment. The original poster, OP, provided an update 8 months later. Thanks to those who've reached out. Nothing's changed. I'll always be the jerk in my ex's eyes, and I'll carry that guilt forever. I'll keep trying to make amends with her and be better for my wife and kids. Recently, an event brought some closure. My youngest, now 18, is graduating, and my ex hosted a party at her place with family and friends from both sides. The first such gathering since our wedding over 20 years ago. We'd held separate parties for our oldest's graduation 2 years prior. The party went smoothly, and our daughter felt loved. She found it odd but sweet to see her step-siblings with her cousins or both sets of grandparents chatting and laughing. It stung to realize she didn't recall when our families were close. Pre-divorce. My wife and ex chatted and even laughed together. Likely about me, as my wife wouldn't share details. My ex and I spoke mostly about the kids, their futures, and our pride in our daughter. She asked about my family, and I shared updates on my younger kids. She mentioned looking forward to an empty nest with some nerves, said her job's steady and plans to travel. She casually mentioned a Mark in passing, saying, "Mark and I discussed, I don't know who he is, maybe someone she's dating," but she didn't elaborate, and I didn't press. The kids likely share less about our lives than we assume. I thanked her again for being a great mom and apologized for my past failures. She responded kindly and surprisingly apologized for resisting my push for more visitation years ago. Initially, I had limited weekends and short summers, but after remarrying and moving to a bigger home, I sought 50-50 custody. After a tough mediation, we settled on 40-60. We returned to talking about the kids, and the conversation wrapped up. With no more visitation exchanges, our contact will likely be limited to future milestones like college graduations or weddings. Despite the pain we caused each other, I'll always carry guilt for failing her. Still, we raised 2 happy, independent adults. Our paths diverged unexpectedly, but we're proud our kids thrived and felt loved. My wife and younger kids are also doing well. Plenty of updates there, but they're not relevant here. To them, I'm just dad and husband, even if they're sometimes embarrassed to admit it. A commenter questioned why OP didn't move closer to his kids sooner, suggesting he paints his ex as the villain in the custody fight. They're glad she seems at peace and possibly happy with this Mark. OP clarified. When we divorced, I worked in a niche field unavailable where she moved. She wasn't working, so my job was our only income. I spent years learning new skills to switch to a related industry with jobs near my kids. During that time, I had limited visitation due to distance. After moving closer, remarrying, and getting a flexible job, I could handle 50-50 custody, but my ex refused changes even after mediation. She later admitted she acted out of resentment, not the kids' best interests. Many commenters still labeled OP the jerk. What's your take? Share your thoughts below, and let's move to the next story. Our next tale comes from user nflimsy5850 on the Am I the Jerk? subreddit. Am I the jerk for telling my girlfriend to deal with my clown figurines? I'm 26, male, and my girlfriend, 24, female, have been together 2 years. She's known since day one that I'm passionate about clowns. My home is filled with porcelain clown figures, on shelves, walls, even hanging from the ceiling on tiny swings. I love these quirky little guys. Last week, I scored 2 Venetian masks at a thrift shop in great condition for a steal. She despises them, calling them creepy and saying they give her bad energy. I offered to take the masks down when she stays over, but said I'm keeping them. She agreed, but yesterday, she sat me down, saying she's fed up with my weird clown decor and toys, calling them ugly and unsettling. I asked why this was suddenly an issue, as she'd never complained before. She snapped, saying the masks were the final straw and my clown obsession, once cute, is now disturbing. I reminded her, 1. This is my apartment, not ours, and 2. She's known about the clowns forever, so trying to control my decor is unfair. She gave an ultimatum, ditch some clowns or we're done. I told her to deal with it when she's here, or I'd visit her place instead. She called me immature and stormed out. I texted an apology for telling her to deal with it, but she hasn't replied. Am I the jerk for standing my ground? Fun effective comments. As someone who likes Venetian masks but isn't into clowns, I get her unease, but escalating this to your lifelong passion makes her the jerk. Giving ultimatums over your personal space is a red flag. You'll find someone who loves or even adds to your collection. User Obi notes, it's wild. She's gifted me clown items before, like a print of 2 clowns kissing from an art fair. Relevant Turnip says, good you learned this now. It won't last. You're not the jerk. It's your space. If you move in together, she'll likely ban the clowns. And you'll be back here with deeper feelings. Find someone who accepts your hobby, even if they collect creepy gothic dolls. Strict Angle adds, no one's the jerk. She can't dictate your home's decor, but she's likely thinking long-term about compatibility. Early on, she probably tolerated the clowns, unsure where the relationship was headed. After 2 years, she's realizing this won't change and worries about living in a clown-filled home. You should discuss compromises for a shared future space. OP updated. I want to clarify. My grandparents started my collection with a jester figure when I was a baby. It's grown over 2 years to include broader decor beyond dolls. My girlfriend saw this post, read the comments, and called me. She wasn't thrilled about being called the jerk, but apologized for being controlling. Turns out, she was testing if I'd ditch my collection to prove my love. She truly hated the masks, especially above my bed. I said I'd sell them if we needed money, but I won't toss my collection just because someone demands it. She wanted to move past this, but I said no. I didn't like her testing my love. She laughed, and we're now broken up. On the plus side, I can fill my place with more clowns. I found a clown music box online I might buy. Thanks for helping me see I wasn't wrong. To those calling me a serial killer for liking clowns, I've seen comments from people collecting taxidermy, so I think I'm safe. What's your take on this one? Drop your thoughts below. A massive thank you for engaging with today's stories. Your support, time, and love mean everything to me. Hope to see you in the next one. Stay awesome and much love.